Coming at you all the way live from Oakland, California. This is Revolution. And for today's episode, Pascal and I, if you remember, recently we had Fred Hampton's lawyers on, and we said we were going to try to watch Judas and the Black Messiah with them. That didn't work out. We were trying to schedule an episode where, because they have watched it, but they kind of wanted to watch it again to really, get a good feel for the movie. And we've been kind of back and forth, and the timing just didn't work out. So Pascal and I had actually been back and forth about that movie quite a bit on personal calls, and then every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central Time, and 12 p.m. Eastern Time, we are on the Left Flank Vets Twitch show, and that's Left Flank Vets .tv or twitch.com/leftflankvets.tv. I forget. I'm going to have a link in the description. Anywhere you're listening to this show, there will be a link in the description. But anyway, we were on the Left Flank Vets earlier that day, actually talking a lot about the movie, and it started out being kind of just a little back and forth between Pascal and I, and it turned into like an hour and a half discussion about Judas and the Black Messiah. So later that night, when it was time for our live stream every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we just did an episode, him and I kind of giving our take on the movie. So that's what this show is. This is Pascal and I's take on Judas and the Black Messiah. Also, I'll put a link to the Ben Burgess show. I got to watch it with Ben Burgess and crew. It was a special patron feature to watch it with us, and a little bit of chatter afterwards, and then we just did a whole 2 hours on it. There was a little bit of disagreement on what we felt the movie was. A very, very little, I would say. I'll let you guys be the judge of that. I have the utmost respect for Ben Burgess and what he does, and like I said, it's it's like a hair splitting of a difference on kind of how we all felt about the film. All in all, I think even Pascal and I agree that it's a good movie, but it isn't a revolutionary film. And that's why the title of this episode is Judas and the Black Messiah, a counter-revolutionary film. So please leave comments. I want to hear what you guys think about this. Let me know. Let us know. Thank you for your support. For the patrons out there, thank you very much. We appreciate you. If you haven't already, there's a link in the description to wherever you're watching this show to become a patron. We appreciate it. It helps us pay the bills. And that being said, here is our episode of Is Judas and the Black Messiah a counter-revolutionary film? And it starts off with some clips of some Fred Hampton speeches that some people said in the chat was better than the film. So, also another fun thing about these Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday live streams is that they're very interactive. As I'm recording this on February 21st, the live stream that we did on Saturday the 20th lasted over 3 hours, and we actually had some special guests pop in last minute. Professor Dylan Rodriguez popped in last minute and hung out for 2 hours, and we talked the carceral state, we talked defund the police, we talked the creation of white being. That was an interesting discussion. which mainly was, well, it was actually between everybody. There was a lot of chatter in the chat about it as well. So, that being said, I'm going to be quiet. There's links in the description to the YouTube channel where you can find the live stream again every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you.
We work with anybody and form coalition with anybody that has revolution on their mind. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that. You're going to have to say that I am a proletarian. I am the people. I'm not the pig. You've got to make a distinction. And the people are going to have to attack the pigs. The people are going to have to stand up against the pigs. That's what the Panthers are doing. That's what the Panthers are doing all over the world. We're not a racist organization because we understand that racism is an excuse used for capitalism. And we know that racism is just it's a byproduct of capitalism. If we don't hate the motherfucking white people, we hate the oppressor, whether he be white, black, brown, or yellow. We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity. We said we're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people. And we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people. And these people in this class have divided themselves. They say, I'm black and I hate white people. I'm white and I hate black people. I'm Latin American and I hate hillbillies. I'm hillbilly and I hate Indians. So we fight amongst each other. Nothing's more important than stopping fascism because fascism will stop us all. That's the people's thing. Socialism is the people. You're afraid of yourself. If you're afraid of socialism, you're afraid of yourself. With no education, you have neo-colonialism instead of colonialism. What we're talking about is there has to be an educational program. That's very important because if they don't have an education, then they're nowhere. You dig what I'm saying? They're nowhere because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. You understand me? You might get them caught up in because they're poor and they want something. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, they'll be capitalists. And before you know it, we have Negro imperialists. Me, myself, you know, I was born in a so-called bourgeois community. Had some of the better things you could say in life, and I found that there was more people starving than there was people eating. And I found that more people didn't have clothes than they did have clothes, and I found that I just happened to be one of the few. And I made a commitment to myself that I wouldn't stop doing what I'm doing until all those people are free. You got black Easter, you got black Christmas, you got black brown all day, you got black April Fool, ain't here toward nobody but black businessmen. And I say that anybody that comes into our community and does any type of situation that does not meet the needs of the masses, then I, Chairman President of the Black Panther Party, says that I catch that nigga by his collar neck and beat him to death with a Black Panther paper. We not doing it.
All right, we are live. And if you caught the title, we weren't trying to be too controversial with the title, but I do want to ask that question though. Is the new movie about Fred Hampton told from the perspective of the person that actually ratted on Fred Hampton? Is Judas and the Black Messiah a counter-revolutionary film? So first and foremost, I have to introduce my co-host, my homie, my dog, Pascal Robert.
Brother and comrade Jason Miles, peace and greetings to you. How are you living, my brother?
All right. We've been talking since early this morning. Pascal and I do, and we're going to start doing a better job of advertising it. Tuesday mornings, I've been doing the Left Flank Vets show with Marcus from the Left Flank Vets. And Pascal came on today, and we were supposed to watch Adam Curtis's documentary, his new documentary, Can't Get You Out of My Head. And we ended up talking for an hour and a half, literally about this movie, wasting all the good content for me, it was 9 a.m. For Pascal and Marcus, is noon. And then after that, I had an interview with Leisha Brooks, Michael Brooks' sister, and we're going to do another show, Leisha and I don't know what it's going to be about yet. But now about the matter at hand, which is Judas and the Black Messiah. I'm asking, shout out Joshua, I'm glad you made it. I'm asking Pascal, I'm asking the chat, please hit me up and tell me what y'all thought. Who's seen the movie? I know my brother, my dog did. Dr. Bear is here. Shout out Dr. Asatar Bear. Did you see the movie, Dr. Bear? Pascal, you saw the movie. What was your first take on the movie?
I thought the film was very well done from a cinematographic point of view. I thought the acting was good. Mm-hmm. And I thought the plot arc developed well. And I thought that was one of the main reasons why we should be suspicious about the film.
Because it was done so well?
Because it was done so well. And
my brother says he felt it should have been longer. Joshua Sanchez says he'll watch if Pascal approves. Dr. Barrett, killing me.
I think, first of all, I think that people should see the film, right? Because I think that people should see the film for the following reason. I think people should see the film because the film should inspire folks to do further research on the life and politics of Fred Hampton and the Black Panther Party, particularly the Chicago Black Panther Party. So I think that that's a positive, if that comes to be. But at the same time, my overall perspective is unchanged in that we should not be looking to commercial Hollywood productions for revolutionary political education as people who are trying to challenge the status quo, and that we should even be more suspicious of those films if we like them in terms of what exactly are their capacity. And one of the things I like about the fact that we're having this discussion in the context of that clip you just shared in the beginning, which is a montage of speeches of Fred Hampton, is that the particular moment of time that this film gets made is very, very important in the context of Fred Hampton's politics. When we look at that I Am a Revolutionary clip, you hear Fred Hampton disparage internal class stratification among Black people, Black elites, Blacks working as imperialists for the status quo, Black capitalism, Blacks who work at the behest of the ruling class. What I'm trying to demonstrate here is that at a time in which we're seeing a phenomenon that we have talked a couple of times about, Jason, with the rise of the Biden administration and his multiracial imperialist cabinet, people try to reconcile the Black liberation struggle with American exceptionalism. Mm-hmm. We now have a film in which one of the main protagonists is a man who explicitly in his politics talked about the danger of an eventual rise of blackface imperialism in the United States. Yet we have certain segments of the Black population in America who for the last 12 to 16 years with the rise of Obama on have been celebrating that exact fact. And one thing I can assure you that people will not do unless we do it for them in watching this film is talk about the obvious contradiction of a film celebrating a man whose politics was rooted in trying to warn against the potentiality of blackness becoming the face of American empire being heralded at the exact time in which particularly petite bourgeois segments of the African American population are trying to do that, whether it be from Obama to the Kamala Harris to Stacey Abrams to the whole range of blackface figures who are now in the coterie of the Democratic Party. That internal contradiction is something that I think we, or those who consider to be the inheritors of the politics of Fred Hampton, must expose and must make clear. And that's something that I think that this film does not do, but is definitely our job to do. So we can talk about that in that regard.
Sorry, I'm responding to Owen Dorsey that says, "Is America done?" I guess I'll just respond to you here on the chat. I guess my question would be, in what context is America done? I agree. You know, we talked about this earlier this morning with Marcus. You know, sadly he's not here to chime in again. But to your point about that clip, I think that clip encapsulates more of Fred Hampton's politics in like the 3 minutes that I played it.
Than
the
the
clip
whole
7 minutes. Than the entire movie.
Yes.
And the entire movie, in my opinion, and it's funny, I was talking to Leisha Brooks earlier today, and at the end of our conversation, we brought this movie up. She asked what I was going to be doing. You know, I got our phone. I said, "Oh, we're going to be talking about this movie." And she goes, "You know, I just watched it. What did you think?" And even her takeaway, and she had read the Fred Hampton book by Jeffrey Haas. I think he was the one that wrote the Fred Hampton book, and she knew his politics from that book, and of course, watching clips on the internet. And her takeaway was like, this movie really is violent. And she goes, it seems like you don't really see the police violence in the movie. And we talked about this earlier today, that to me, it was more trying to be slick about capturing revolutionary politics in a moment and being able to capture it, like make it real generic. I got the leather jackets, I got the afros, and I got the slogans.
It was definitely more about sloganeering than substance.
Did it humanize William? Yes, which is okay because he was human, but I believe it showed him to be a shitty human. I don't think it showed him to be a shitty human because he is so humanized. Even though you see the scenes of him eating very comfortably at a nice restaurant with the FBI agent in some very nice clothes. I understand why Lakeith Stanfield said he had to go to therapy after he was done with this movie. You know, Lakeith Stanfield has some pretty legit politics and didn't want to play the snitch necessarily. He thought he was going to play Fred Hampton. And also, we have a 30-plus-year-old man playing a 20-year-old young man. And I think that there's something to be said about that as well. I don't know who you would have gotten young enough to pull off the Fred Hampton role. But the movie definitely, to me, was really violent, and all of the politics are gone, and you have just enough to say that you put it in there. You know what I mean? Like, here, I got him handing out oatmeal. So we talked about the breakfast program. They said socialism 3 times. Therefore, I'm talking about their politics. And that's what you get. It's the Fred Hampton story told through the lens of the informant, with the departed being the theme, which is a violent, police movie.
I mean, one of the things that I found problematic, though, is that the moral struggles, the character that has his moral struggles highlighted in the film is William O'Neill. It's not Fred. Yeah. Like, you don't see the internal kind of moral turmoil Fred Hampton has as a 21-year-old with the responsibility of being deputy chairman of the Chicago Black Panther Party and all of the the emotional toil that takes. But you see the emotional toil of William O'Neill via the actor that plays him, Lakeith Stanfield,
Mhm.
all over the screen. And that was something I found fascinating as well, is that there's more emotional range given to William O'Neill than there is to Fred Hampton in the movie.
Again, it's the story of Fred Hampton told through the eyes of the snitch. And also, I felt, and maybe you guys will disagree with me that have seen the movie, I felt even the FBI agent gets a little bit of humanity and understanding in the scene where, and I'll warn everybody now, we're gonna give some spoilers. I think everybody kind of knows, unfortunately, the story of Chairman Fred, but other than that, we'll probably dive deep into certain scenes of the movie. There's a scene where the FBI agent is talking to J. Edgar Hoover's character, played by Martin Sheen. Is it Martin? Yes, Martin Sheen. And Martin Sheen goes, "Well, what are you going to do when a Negro comes to your house?" And remember, that scene is set up by the FBI agent saying, "Hey, I went down to Mississippi." Basically, he's like, "I'm William Dafoe's character from Mississippi Burning."
Worse,
I
he said,
went down.
what is this? He says, "What are you going to do when a Negro tries to go out with your daughter?" He
Yeah,
says,
what are you gonna do when a Negro comes to your house and goes out with your daughter? And the dude was like, "My daughter's 8 months. She's a child." And he's like, "So, what are you gonna do?"
But and then he says, "This is what we're up against." So
Mhm.
what's fascinating is that the biggest threat in the eyes of the Hoover character is the possibility of a black male dating a white female child, as if that reduces the whole. I mean, one of the things, right? And I got to give credit to Jared Ball. This is not my take, but I think it's a very valuable take.
Shout
Is
out Jared
that
Ball.
it reduces the state apparatus that was invested in neutralizing the Black Panther Party to personalities. In other words, you see, the kind of ridiculous depiction of Hoover. You see the FBI agent, and you see, a couple of white FBI agents here and there, and then you see William O'Neill. But we don't understand. Like, there's no understanding that it wasn't just the FBI. You have, this Ed Hanrahan, who was the state attorney, who was behind this. The Mayor Daley, the Daley administration, who was behind this. The Chicago Police Department was behind this. That the whole mechanism, the whole weight of the federal government was behind trying to destroy a Black youth movement of racial empowerment. And that fact is reduced to really a conflict of race and personality in the film, as opposed to the overall overarching significance of what that really means. That the state, all of the mechanisms of American empire in domestic intelligence and policing were trying to destroy a bunch of 20-year-old and teenagers.
No, and so Francis Madsen asked, and shout out Francis. One of the most important things that fiction does to show us how to recognize the bad guys as a movie do that. The movie is literally told from the perspective of the quote unquote bad guy. So if William O'Neill is the bad guy, it's literally told from the way he viewed things. So I don't know if it necessarily tells us or shows us who the bad guy is, because to Pascal's point, you don't really understand what these young people were up against or what the community was up against in general when it came to police violence. And you really don't understand what they were up against when it came to a certain level of poverty in certain areas. So it keeps the Black Panthers in this mystical world of just almost reactionary, angry Black people firing off shots at cops, always carrying a gun. I mean, there's a scene where a guy is questioning another man about what happened to his friend in the hospital that just got shot by the police. And he walks to the guy's house with a big ass assault rifle. And, it's like the guy doesn't notice it's there. It's So he walked up to his house with an assault rifle in 1968. It's 2021, and if some motherfucker's walking around Oakland with an assault rifle, best believe I'm a no. So there was I wouldn't say silly shit, but it did feel like that action was shoehorned in there.
Again, I mean, I don't think listen, I'm going to go with my initial position. This was a well done film.
Mm-hmm.
It is entertaining. It's very compelling. The acting is very good. And that's why you should be critical of the film, because a dramatic rendering of a revolutionary political figure within the context of American cinematography is not going to be done to encourage revolutionary uprising. It's going to be done, first of all, to facilitate the exegesis of American capital and selling of product. You know,
I think that's one thing that we said earlier this morning. I said I think this movie's going to sell a lot of T-shirts. It's going to sell a lot of hats. It's going to sell a lot of like Panther merchandise, and best believe there's going to be some merchandise after this. I look at it like this, and this is my take on it. I was on Ben Burgess' show. For those of you guys who know out there, shout out Ben Burgess, and we had to watch Full Metal Jacket. And of all of us sitting in the room, or not sitting, talking about Full Metal Jacket, one of the themes these guys kept saying is this is an anti-war film. And at some point I said, well, this movie's made in 87 on the heels of Top Gun. And all these other quote unquote anti-war films come out around the same time. Platoon, Casualties of War, Full Metal Jacket, Born on the 4th of July. And all these films are billed as anti-war films. And when I said, well, if it's an anti-war film, where's the anti-war movement? Because soon after this film comes out and these films come out, we have a conflict in the Gulf, and I don't really remember a very large movement pushing against that conflict, considering the amount of quote-unquote anti-war films that have been shoved down our throats for the last 4 years before this conflict. And when I asked Marcus, I think that Saturday from Left, we brought this up with him, and I said, do you look at Full Metal Jacket as an anti-war film? And he goes, hell no. If you watch it in the mess hall, it's not an anti-war film. He goes, that was a how-to guide. He goes, drill sergeants learned insults from that movie. And that's kind of how I felt about this movie. Kind of doubling down on what you said. If the system of Hollywood makes it, regardless of how slick we want to believe it is and how the message that you get from it, you've projected onto it. That's how I feel about it. If you can watch this movie and you think in your heart that there's a kid that's going to go, you know what? Maybe I should read the Communist Manifesto. You've projected that onto that, because I think he said the word socialism maybe once or twice.
I definitely don't think that the politics were effectively made clear in this film in a way in which what exactly Hampton was trying to say, in the way he was trying to explain that capitalism uses racial division to facilitate oppression, and that the only way in which the system is going to be toppled is if the various racial groups that are divided unite to challenge the system. I don't think that the importance of that message was as effectively challenged as what you just said right now. Is that a 3-minute YouTube clip of actually watching Fred Hampton?
Mm-hmm.
I think in many ways Hampton was somewhat reduced to kind of caricature. I was more. I thought I wasn't that. I didn't like the Fred Hampton character that much, because I don't think that it really fully, went into his humanity. I don't think that his, it talks about how much he loved the people, but yet he always seemed to be a kind of sullen, kind of angry figure. But when you see Fred Hampton in various documentaries, he's always smiling. I remember Eddie Conway talking about, he talked about how he didn't like the film because it made, Fred seemed so angry. He said the first thing you recognize about Fred Hampton was that he had those dimples, man. Those dimples, man. They would get you all the time because he was always smiling. He was always warm, and I didn't really get that sense conveyed from this particular depiction of Hampton. He always seemed to be like a kind of dark, sullen figure as well. But I'm not going to say that, Daniel Kaluuya was ineffective as portraying the role. I'm just saying that I just find it problematic that the emotional ups and downs of William O'Neill as the agent is challenged in the movie more than what Fred Hampton is emotionally dealing with as the head of the actual movement.
I think I felt like they tried a little bit to show that, the love story, if you will. They try, but I think they found an edge, right? Ultimately, when you want to make the Black Panther story, you don't want to be the Panther movie from 1995 that was a bit of a flop. But if you watch that movie, you could actually see my house in it. When they're in Richmond. When I watched that movie, I felt like, kind of knowing how the Hollywood is like, look, we're going to make this Fred Hampton movie, but here's the pitch. It's going to be from the perspective of the snitch, and it's going to be Black Departed.
They literally said that they were trying to Trojan horse. They were trying to Trojan horse the movie. That's a term that they use, the producers of the film, a movie about Fred Hampton by making it about the snitch.
It was no Trojan horse. They pitched it. All that, again, all the other shit that you want to say that's righteous about it to me is projection. When they were pitching this movie, you think that you can go up to some Hollywood filmmaker, hey, I got a great idea. I'm going to tell a story about a 21-year-old revolutionary, Fred Hampton, that was killed by the FBI. And they're like, nah, we already have X. And certain movies from these guys don't really do real well. Okay, we're going to tell the story from the perspective of the snitch. It's going to be, get this, Black Departed. And that's what you get. And that's how it got pitched. That's how it got made. And that's how it's going to be merchandised. The William O'Neill biopic. Of course, you can't say the William O'Neill biopic because who the fuck knows William O'Neill? But I can say the Fred Hampton movie told from the perspective of the snitch. And now Oscar time is going to roll around. I guarantee you this movie wins some awards. It was well done.
It's a good movie. It's not a bad. Let's make it clear. It's not a bad movie. It's actually a very compelling, very well done movie with good acting, which should make you even more suspicious of the film.
But and again, all those quote unquote anti-war movies that become pro-war movies, that become pro-empire movies. What did Touré say? He said those Vietnam movies told the story of the war from a squad's eye view and never questions empire. It never questions colonial regimes. It just tells you the squad's eye view story of man's inhumanity to man. And good art is more dangerous propaganda than bad art. Yes. And as good as this movie was, it doesn't really show you, like I said, what the Panthers were up against, what they were really about, because that just goes against the mission of the film.
There's no
maybe that's not exciting.
There's no discussion of the internationalism, the Black internationalism of the Panthers on their position on African colonial independence and movements, on their position on American imperialism. On this, no one talks about Vietnam. There's no mention of Vietnam. Vietnam was a major driving force behind why the Black Panther Party was being supported by white youth, because they were talking about, the American empire in the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm. Not mentioned. But again, if I eliminate your real politics, and your politics get boiled down to, I'm not afraid to shoot a cop. So originally, I want to tell you guys, I wanted to start this show off with a Tupac clip, because Pascal had made a statement where he said, is black politics the politics of containment? And in this Tupac clip, he talks about, if I'm hungry and I know there's a door in front of me, and on the other side of that door is all this food, and you're eating it and throwing it around and don't give a fuck, and I'm singing my way in. We are hungry, please let us in. He's like, we asked with the civil rights movement and the Panthers. He goes, what do you think I'm going to do now, 10 years later? And Pascal and I were talking about, the clip, and, his statement is black politics, the politics of containment. And I felt like, yeah, this man, a lot of people reduce hip hop down to like revolutionary black politics. And what was the goal other than some sort of extension on black capitalism, which was the antithesis of everything a person like Hampton talked about?
That's a very good point. We've talked several times about how, there are certain people, even particularly quote unquote hip hop intellectuals, who are reducing or trying to make the argument that hip hop is the certain generation's contribution to the Black liberation quote unquote struggle, trademark LLC, if you will, that, somehow this music form that has become, particularly today, so easily used to promote black capitalism, with artists opening banks and things of that nature, and merchandise, so on and so forth, that there was a generation who actually believed that this was somehow going to be a revolutionary art form. And I think that that's something that we need to interrogate as well. So, but to my larger point about black politics being a politics of containment, like, when I look at this film and I look at how, political reactions and artistic reaction is about encapsulating, black activity into an otherization. In other words, they are the exotic other. Black people are the exotic other that must have a certain kind of cartel to negotiate their politics. They can never be fully made to be part of the system, whether or not they contain or are contained by the ruling class. So in a certain way, the question I'm asking is that, does by the fact that you have to have a black politics mean that in and of itself, it becomes a politics of containment, where the perspectives are limited by a ruling class negotiating with a body that's undemocratically kind of, moved around like one solid chess piece?
Dr. Bear says that the Fred Hampton movie never gets made if Black Panther, the Marvel movie, wasn't a big hit. I think that has a lot to do with it.
It's a very, very,
I think that has a lot to do with it, Brother Bear, because remember cats going, I think we joked about this. Did we joke about this on our show about cats going to see Black Panther? We all knew somebody that went there crying with a dashiki on, talking about Wakanda forever.
Oh, there were whole groups of people.
Like, we all know somebody that did that bullshit and had pictures of their whole family with dashikis on going to see Black Panther. None of them motherfuckers ever read the comic, didn't even know that motherfucker existed until, Marvel told him he did. He did. And it's funny. It's like, we're going to go see Black Panther. It's like, Storm is a queen. She was in like 3 X-Men movies, and she's a queen from Africa, but y'all didn't really give a fuck about her. Got you.
Okay. That was that's real talk. That I saw that happen in real time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Storm actually marries Black Panther in the Marvel universe. That's enough comic book talk for now. I know there's a lot of comic book people watching the show.
Someone said Pelosi and Chuck Schumer with their garb on, crying the whole movie. Oh my god,
that's going to be the scene, right? That's going to be the scene. The CIA told record producers, so Jay Coleman, I know a gentleman that's a little older than Pascal. And he actually was in the industry pretty high up in that era. And I asked him about that. And he said he had never heard of that. And there's a lot of talk that that is not a real thing that happened. But he did say this. He goes, I was high up enough that I would have been there, but I'm not saying it didn't happen. He goes, I never heard of it, but I'm not saying it didn't happen. To the point about the pushing gangster rap music. Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote the storyline for the movie. No, if he would have, race would have been way more magical.
The characters from Black Panther would have been able to fly without spacecraft if that was.
Oh, dude. You mean Black Panther wrote the Judas and the Black Messiah?
Then the characters wouldn't have needed guns to shoot bullets. It would have been even special.
Yeah, there would have been a whole scene where William O'Neill comes to grips with the fact that he's been lied to by the white establishment, and he rips off his pimp suit, and then a leather coat comes out, and he flies, and there's doves, and then he realizes it was all a dream, and he's made a whole.
What is he? Is he William O'Neill or is he Prince? What are you talking about?
A little bit of both in the Ta-Nehisi Coates version.
Gotta get some when doves cry in there.
He's a little bit of both. Thank you, brother Eric Brown. Appreciate you. Thank you for checking this out. It really means a lot. I'm not gonna lie. When we first decided to do this show on Zero Books, I definitely told Doug Lane that we're going to be talking a lot of black shit. And was he worried? He's like, I don't care. So I was like, all right, we're not going to stop. So thank you guys for sticking around and paying attention. But
Joshua Sanchez said, and Coach would have Torrey Reed play the bad guy.
That's fucked up. Because I kind of want to screenshot that and send it to him now. Because I got a text message from Torrey hella early this morning, mad about some racist magical motherfucker.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What's this, brother? You know what? Just because I love y'all, I'm going to find this. Who is this cat? You know this dude. Hold on. This is how much we was talking. Also, we had a long talk about Gina Carano. Sandy Darity.
Oh yeah. Sandy Darity is the professor from Duke.
Yeah.
What happened? What did Darity do?
Darity wrote this new book about reparations.
Right.
And I didn't know who I get this Darity shit. I'm thinking this dude done talked about his mama. And he's talking about this dude's book and yeah. I found a clip of him talking about reparations and about the racial wealth gap.
TM Trademark LLC. No, we talked about this today, man. Racial grievance discourse is hot because the lords of capital. Now, listen, when Jamie Dimon is more interested in a racial wealth gap than a federal jobs guarantee or Medicare for all, he's telling you, listen, we can give the black people fatback and biscuits and we don't have to worry about class-wide politics. It's perfect for us. It's great. It's just kind of like what happened during the Black Power era. We give you some black capitalism. We're going to give you some means-tested racial programs for working-class poor black people. We're not going to give you any kind of transformative policy that will challenge deindustrialization or the overall function of capitalism, no class-wide politics, and you'll be happy, but it's not going to really change the overall condition of your community because capitalism still requires you to be surplus redundant labor. And Joe Biden will be able to walk away and say, I did more for Negroes than any president in 50 years, and it'll be true.
The sad thing is, he was saying this earlier today, and he was like, I think Joe Biden is going to give some there's going to be some sort of reparations bill, and that's what he's going to say after he does it. Like, hey, you're going to take it, bitch.
We talked about it this morning.
Yeah. You were like, you're going to take this bullshit made up reparations that I'm finna give you. Jay Coleman, ultimately,
reparations under capitalism is just welfare.
That's ultimately what it would probably be, right? It would be some sort of like, what do you think it would look like?
I think it would have a significant amount of black capitalism allotment, like black business allotment at the top, mortgage guarantees, financial access for homeowners, increasing home ownership.
That qualify. Everything will be means tested.
A significant amount of donations to historically black colleges and universities. Incentives to corporations to hire more black professionals, subsidizing small business and minority business administration loans. And at the bottom, you're going to have some types of means tested programs for, poor folk, that will not necessarily transform the overall working and function of capitalism. And sadly, because that's more than either of the bipartisan politics has given black people since Nixon, Biden will be able to walk away and says, look what I did for you people.
Joshua Sanchez says, what happens when some of the white African descendants of slavery get some of that money? Joshua Sanchez, word up. So this is the ADOS conversation that they look at me crazy whenever I say that, whenever I say who gets whatever benefit. Ask the Native Americans how that works, and they'll tell you it doesn't work out that well.
I mean, my position, I'm not even, I think Torre is a little bit more, he has a more hardcore position on reparations than I do.
Yes.
My position is that I'm not debating whether it's worthy or that it's deserved. There's no question that it is. But what I'm saying is that where have you seen in American history that reparations alone as a mechanism transforms a whole community and lifts them out of poverty? It didn't work that way for the Native Americans. It didn't even work that way for the Jews. So I'm trying to understand, where is this equation that people have that if black people get reparations, then everything is Shangri-La, wonderful, okay, the racial wealth gap is closed, and black people won't be poor anymore. Particularly when the top 10% of whites own over 75% of white wealth, the same way the top 10% of blacks own over 75% of black wealth. And the gap between the rest of the two are very, very close and not tremendously separated by large amounts of wealth, even though there is a distinction. What ends up happening is that, are you basically arguing so that you can go from the projects to the trailer park in terms of you want to close the racial wealth gap? What does that mean?
I'm glad you said that, because part of that racial wealth gap conversation always goes, well, white people make this much, black people make this much, and they never take the time to consider that one important factor, that it's not all of these white people, it's the top 10%, it's the top tier. But again, that racial discourse, to your point, becomes the discourse of the day. It gets a lot of clicks. It's going to get a lot of people to watch this fucking movie.
Well, listen, we talked earlier this morning as well about Preston Smith's book, which I'm looking forward to finishing, about
who should be coming on the show, by the way.
Yeah, housing policy in Chicago during the civil rights era, and how during the civil rights period, the leaders of the movement had a choice between going two paths, which was, one was social democracy and one was racial democracy. Social democracy was to demand policy that would be class-wide, that would affect American citizens overall. and racial democracy would be policies that were race specific. And what was realized is that whenever they demanded racial democracy, they only got policy that improved the condition of those people who were black, middle class, or elites, while social democracy was found to be better off for improving the condition of black people overall. And my question is that when exactly do we expect, or when will we learn that when we have race reductionist politics, as Tory likes to refer to them, it creates the reality that we replicate the class division that already exists amongst black people that is almost as great, if not greater, than between blacks and whites in terms of wealth. No one ever talks about the internal racial wealth gap between black people and how that actually is increasing as much so, if not in many ways, as worse than amongst whites. And again, when we're going to talk about policy that will just replicate that because it's going to be a cash transfer to the black middle class and the black political class, well, what happens then?
Oh, I thought you were going to keep going.
No. I was looking at the comments.
There's thank you guys for the chat. These are some great fucking comments. I'm loving this conversation right now. Jared Ball is coming on next Saturday, I believe, and this Saturday, Margaret Kimberly, author of Prejudential, is going to be our guest. And Thursday we have a guest, Pascal. What's our guest name?
Oh yeah, Daoud Andre from Kamakoda, which is a Haitian movement organization in Brooklyn, New York. We're going to be talking about the situation in Haiti with him.
Jay Coleman, are you going to tell me Obama's mom is ADOS? No, mama, but you know what? My cousin Adam is, and he's white. I have a cousin that is easily passes. You would never know. I wouldn't, I can't show a picture. I don't want to out him, but same last name. We are first cousins. Married a white woman, and do his kids get reparations? Yes, and yes, he is, but he's high yellow too, mama.
Your mom said Adam is black. BLQUACK.
Yeah, she had to spell it extra black. That's my mom, by the way. I hope you do. You married their son. Torre asks if anybody said anything good about him. Should I say yes?
I tell him that they are very alive to his differences of opinion with Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Should I lie and say that I got a bunch of Ta-Nehisi Coates fans on the show to see if he'll come on?
No, I don't think he'll come on.
You think he'll run from that? A bunch of... I'll just say something good, see if he'll come on. Don't be surprised if Phoenix runs in here. I hear him. He's talking shit. Jay Coleman thinks what exists? Black people, they exist. My mom wants us to have Brianna Joy Gray on the show because I wanted Brianna Joy Gray to come on the show at some point, and I will actually. I had a long talk with Torre about Brianna Joy Gray, and he thinks that she would love to come on the show. White ADOS, they exist like in what way? Like they're gonna get money too, or what? Or they're just white people that support reparations?
When did you have this extensive conversation with Torre? Was it on phone or through text?
Phone. Sometimes he calls me up and just like shit.
What was his takes on Brianna? Are we gonna go open up the Brianna Joy Gray?
No. Nope. I have a rule. I'm gonna abide by the rule that I set for myself. I'm gonna follow said rule.
We liked Brianna Joy Gray on the show.
We would like to have Brianna Joy Gray on the show. I think it'd be a fun show. I've never seen her have a show with all black people that aren't yelling at her. Every time I see Brianna Joy,
I watched an episode of a show she had on where she had this character, this guy Leslie Lee on the show, who's like a friend of Katie Halper, who was a black guy. I was like, wow.
Oh, that black guy? Yeah.
Yes. I was like, wow, there's like an extra black character on the Katie Halper show. This is so nice. More than just
February.
Ray.
It's February, so you got to get them all out for February. That's why I'm making the rounds on all these shows. If you guys see me on all these like other white people shows, it's February. And Torre is busy.
Oh my God.
It's February and Cedric's writing a book. And so they go down the list and they go, that guy. That's not true. That's not why I'm going to be on.
Your mama said Torre, Obama's bro. I was like, oh my.
She said he looked like Obama. My mom thinks all black people look alike. My mama's a black person that would tell you all black people look alike. My mama's also crazy. In a good way.
We like Pam Davis on the show.
I've got to see her black ass tomorrow. So, I'm not going to get into a discussion about white ADOS. If you guys in the chat would like to talk to Pam Davis, aka my mom, about white ADOS, feel free. I choose to not go down those rabbit holes with her. That is where we differ. But my mom is a hardcore leftist, union organizer, no joke motherfucker. So I would appreciate if you guys did talk to her. Respect. That's all I ask in general. And Pascal's gonna laugh at these jokes, Mama, because I'm
someone
funny.
asked, is a basic question. Is Judas and the Black Messiah counter-revolutionary, yes or no?
I say yes.
I say yes because it doesn't encourage you to have revolutionary politics.
Yeah. Judas and the Black Messiah is a good film to watch. It's fun to watch. I shouldn't say fun to watch. It's an entertaining film. But as far, you know what? Dr. Bear asked this question earlier in the chat, and we didn't get to it. And he was like, what was our take of Malcolm X?
I talked about this. My belief on the film Malcolm X is that the most radical aspects of his politics weren't covered in his movie. His racial internationalism, his challenge to capitalism and imperialism, and it really just limited itself to the kind of narrow black nationalism that Spike Lee's a fan of.
It doesn't really talk about any of his politics in the movie. And it's 2.5 hours of a man's 38 years of life. So, you know, how much are you going to cover? What are you going to cover? I get that. And I think they definitely wanted to cover the hoodlum to saint role, redemption story. But
is Pam Davis having a party in the clubhouse? Why is she what she said she had?
She tried to get me on this clubhouse thing. If you guys want to go on Clubhouse, my mom was getting people on it. Once old people are on it, it's probably not cool.
She said, I'm here for cannabis dispensary information. Woo, woo, woo.
The first 2 hours of Malcolm X. You know what the best part of Malcolm X is besides the soundtrack? I think the soundtrack is really good. One of my favorite parts is when he's in the scene where he's looking at is it Natalie Cole that's playing Billie Holiday's character? And she's singing In the Still of the Night. Awesome. Beautiful. Hollywood not breaching class politics. Typical. Hell no. Hell no. But read the interviews. You know, if you read the interviews, you would think that this movie was some sort of tour de force revolutionary film that's breaking all the bounds of what it's this new era of black filmmaking is. And again, when you have the slick way to pitch your movie, and I always go back to the 90s, that explosion of hood film, Boys in the Hood, Straight Outta Brooklyn. What other hood film came out? Juice. What else? From a different filmmaker.
Menace to Society.
Menace to Society. And the movie that gets kind of forgotten in all that Fear of a Black Hat. I thought Fear of a Black Hat. It's satire, of course, but it tells that the story of that era perfectly. When they're walking around any hood USA. 94 crime bill movies. Yes, Jay Coleman. That's what we call them. We call them 94 crime bill movies. That's why we have a whole episode.
Do you think the film is a sort of cipher for Black Lives Matter and liberal politics? Ooh.
Go ahead and riff.
Man, I think that the fact that this film demonstrates a revolutionary reaction to police brutality in the context of a post George Floyd America definitely makes a statement. I have to really think about that question, man. I don't have an easy answer for that. I think that the film definitely fits into that kind of equation in that kind of post George Floyd moment. And I don't necessarily know if it's acting as a cipher for those liberal politics. I got to think about that.
Somebody asked about American Skin. We haven't seen American Skin. Neither one of us has seen American Skin. Yeah. It's definitely on the list of movies we want to see. Right now, we're doing two things. Pascal and I watched this movie, and now we're watching the Adam Curtis documentary, Can't Get You Out of My Head, and we'll be watching it on here, and we'll also be watching it with the Left Flank Vets for the next few weeks as a 6-part series, which, does ask questions of revolution. And I think the main question that the series asks, and you might disagree with me, is what is revolution in the age of the individual? If being a part of revolution is giving up oneself to be part of the greater movement, how can this be done in the age of the individual? And what does it really boil down to? Definitely watching it is hard to do because I feel like Adam Curtis made some hard right turns in this movie. The homie Robbie Martin says he never thought he'd see the day Adam Curtis was to the right of Michael Moore. I felt like there was a lot of red baiting in it. Pascal and Marcus agreed. That being said, I still think the question of what is a revolutionary in an era of individualism is, to me, an important question to ask, especially now.
No doubt.
What say you, Pascal Robert?
I mean, I think that there was definitely some valuable content in the documentary, but I just overall don't think it's a left project or a radical or revolutionary product. I think it's a kind of, analysis of what politics overall affects people in terms of their individual weaknesses over time. But I don't think it's something that's it's encouraging people to challenge the status quo in any way.
So Baby says American Skin isn't good. So you didn't like the movie, Baby? It wasn't good? The trailer looks interesting. Friend of show, Kelly Dietz, Dr. Kelly Dietz actually was an advisor on Nate. What's his name? Nate Parker. Nate Parker's other movie, Birth of a Nation. She's a historical advisor on that film, and she's going to be coming on the show sooner than later. Would you say is an R? What is that? I'm confused on that. Would you say is an R? I don't know what that means. So you know what I wanted to watch the film. I wanted to try to stream it, but since it's HBO, there's nowhere we could stream it without us getting taken down, unless we had like a Discord server. I will be streaming it. If you're a patron with Ben Burgess, we'll be streaming it this Saturday. And I'll be watching it with I forget who's all watching it with us. But we'll be watching Judas and the Black Messiah Saturday if you're on Ben Burgess's Patreon. And
is he streaming?
They have some sort of server where it'll just be patrons, so it won't be on streamed like this. It'll just be for whoever the patrons are. for Ben. I don't know how big his Patreon base is, but we're going to be streaming it and kind of discussing it. Also, tomorrow I'll be on Ben Burgess's show, and we'll be talking about RoboCop. Who here has seen RoboCop?
I've seen it.
I look at RoboCop as kind of like, if you want to understand neoliberalism, if you hear the word, you don't really get what it means, watch RoboCop. That is like, from the first scene where the doctor is showing you the heart with the motor powered by Yamaha, and they can easily finance it for you, to the whole premise of the movie that the police force is being run by a private corporation, Omnicorp. You know, it's a good movie, and I'm kind of excited to examine it with those guys as a neoliberalism how-to guide. RoboCop is a lot of those old 80s movies, like, you forget how pro neoliberal or pro cop propaganda they are. And watching a movie like RoboCop, who's the bad guy in that movie? Because the company that makes RoboCop, the quote unquote good guy, remains. So who's really the bad guy in that movie? Is it the citizens that do criminal activity that the major corporation is literally trying to get rid of? You know, that's also, trying to get rid of the Denzians and bring in new people for these new jobs as they rebuild an entire new city. Like, that's an interesting concept, in my opinion. And then you find out the criminals are working with the corporations to peddle the dope, right? Yeah, 2 million jobs, but not for those people. That's a line in RoboCop. That's in the one of the opening scenes. And that's kind of one of my fears of this administration, because there's such a push to want to defund law enforcement, and what are we going to replace it with? Not that. And let me back up a little bit. When we say things like we want to replace cops with these people, is there going to be oversight? Is there going to be the level of budget that police get? I had a show, it should be airing in about 2 weeks, where I talk with a drug counselor, and we had a long discussion about when people say things like, okay, we're going to replace police with these social workers. And her whole point was, if you're not trying to change the material conditions of people, housing, job programs, drug treatment if they need it, then you're just talking people off a ledge real quick so it happens again. You're just part of this fucked up revolving door. And you're going to burn out a fuck ton of social workers, counselors, whatever title you want to give them. You're going to burn those people out. And what level, like, how much is a municipality willing to invest in just the social workers alone? I agree, Erica. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and shout out to Erica Wheeler, that it does become a different type of police force. So, and you're going to burn out good people. And then if you really look at a lot of people that work in that world, not everybody, but because that's an industry that not a lot of people want to go to work in, you're not getting top people. You go into psychiatry, you got to go to school to be a doctor. You want to counsel drug addicts and offenders and homeless people, maybe you get an intern. The turnover in that world is just so high. Are they going to get the level of overtime that police officers get? Is their job going to be heavily incentivized by who they can help and who they can't help? When you're talking about an unhoused person and you have to get them housing, and there is a laundry list of forms you have to fill out to get housing, it's a lot of questions. If you've been living in a tent for the last year and a half, you might not have your social security letter that says how much your benefit's supposed to be. People would be astonished at the amount of people I've met in my short time actually working in the field that literally were afraid to go to social security offices because they couldn't read. And it's hard to get to that level where someone's going to tell you that they can't even read because they're so used to seeing so many different people come in and out that are authority figures. Again, I'm not saying don't defund the police. All I'm saying is you have to understand that the goal should be we want to improve people's material conditions. And as we're high-fiving on some of the things we hear, that they're not going to have cops respond to these things, they're going to have social workers. Are they coming from a private company there's no community oversight with? Does this private company, do we get to see what kind of qualifications these people have to be social workers? Again, I can't stress it enough. I worked in the industry and I worked with people that couldn't read. So what level of care are we really giving them? If you were willing to give the cop $70-some thousand just for the Kevlar uni, are you willing to pay and support a counselor to that level? Or are you going to underfund the project? It's not going to work. We're going to point the finger, much like Reagan's gubernatorial run against Brown in the 60s, where it's like, look at these programs. They don't work. They eat up your tax dollars. Tough on crime, tough on crime, tough on crime. All right, I'm done ranting.
So again, Thursday we're going to have Daoud Andre from Komokoda talk about the Haiti situation. We're looking forward to on Saturday having Margaret Kimberly discussing her book Presidential and maybe a little bit more about Black politics. We always try to talk about Black politics here. I don't think we've scheduled a guest for Tuesday as of yet. We'll be working on that. I'm still working on my book on From Obama to Trump and the Crisis.
Oh, did you hear that?
Yes. Shots fired. And, you know, Saturday, look forward to Margaret Kimberly. Thursday, we're talking about Haiti. And we'll be back next Tuesday for another segment. We'll have a guest by then, hopefully.
We'll have a guest by then. My mom says she'll be there for Black politics. Well, there's going to be no Black politics. We're just going to talk about China. Take that.
Oh, she didn't like Pam Davis didn't like the China show?
I haven't talked to her since we did China show. I haven't seen her. She yelled at me and told me that I couldn't take my son there Monday because it was her day off.
But
I put your business in the street.
On that note,
I'm going to play some more of Brother Fred Hampton. And thank you guys very much for hanging out with us. So tomorrow, Zero Books will be running our show on China. And I really am excited to get your guys' feedback on that. Always a little nervous when talking about China because people get really emotional. And so tomorrow, Zero Books, China episode. Check it out.
Peace.
We're going to have to move. We got to move fast. We got to move hard. And we're going to have to move organized. can jail revolutionaries, but you can't jail a revolution. Right. We need some guns. Black people need some peace. White people need some peace. And we are going to have to fight. We're going to have to struggle. We're going to have to struggle relentlessly to bring about some peace, because the people that we're asking for peace, they're a bunch of megalomaniac warmongers, and they don't even understand what peace means. And we've got to fight them. We've got to struggle with them to make them understand what peace means. Like we always did, if you ask to make a commitment at the age of 20, and you say, I don't want to make that commitment because for the simple reason that I'm too young to die, I want to live a little bit longer. What you did, you did already. I'm saying something that might wake up some other exploited people and some other oppressed people, and if all these people ever get together, then these pigs that are exploiting us, we'll be able to run them into the lake. That's why they want to get rid of us. I don't believe I'm going to die from slipping on a piece of ice. I don't believe I'm going to die because I got a bad heart. I don't believe I'm going to die because of lung cancer. I believe that I'm going to be able to die in the thing that I was born for. I believe that I'm going to be able to die high off the people. I believe that I will be able to die as a revolutionary in the international revolutionary proletariat struggle. Why don't you live for the people? Why don't you struggle for the people? Why don't you die for the people? All we want to know is that you're doing what we'd be doing if we were here. And you got to do that. You can't do it unless you believe that you can do it. In the spirit of liberation, we understand that they want everybody in the party in jail. So the quick solution, the speedy one, nobody goes. Nobody goes. We all stay right here. With the people. Because we love the people. Okay, you can put your hands down now. We say all power to all people. We say white power to white people. Brown power to brown people. Yellow power to yellow people. Black power to black people. X power to those that we left out. We say Panther power to the Vanguard Party. Before you go to bed, man, say I am a revolutionary. Make that the last word. Say that. That I am a revolutionary.
All right, peace out, y'all. If you can, I'll be with Ben Burgess tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll be talking about RoboCop. Thank you guys very much, and please let us know in the comments what you guys thought about the movie. If there's any other movies you'd like us to check out and watch. And I am out.